The cantina on Station Omega-7 fell silent as Zarthak the Destroyer entered, his massive frame filling the doorway. Standing nearly 9 feet tall with obsidian scales that gleamed under the artificial lights, he was a sight that had made countless warriors across the galaxy tremble. His forearms rippled with muscle, each capable of crushing a standard humanoid skull with minimal effort. The bone spikes protruding from his shoulders and forearms had been sharpened to deadly points, and his reputation preceded him like a dark shadow. Every patron in the establishment knew who he was. Zarthak had single-handedly conquered 12 worlds for the hegemony. He had torn through entire battalions of enemy soldiers, leaving nothing but carnage in his wake. His name was whispered in hushed tones across star systems, and military academies taught courses on his tactical brutality. As he strode through the cantina, aliens of every species, Vorthan merchants, Kree engineers, even battle-hardened Nexus Marines, immediately averted their eyes and shuffled aside. The air itself seemed to grow heavier with each thunderous step he took. But then something unprecedented happened. A human sitting at the bar glanced over, took one look at the legendary destroyer of worlds, and burst into laughter. Not the nervous, terrified giggle of someone trying to mask their fear, not the desperate laugh of someone who had lost their mind in the face of impending doom. This was genuine, hearty laughter, the kind that came from finding something genuinely amusing. Marcus Chen, a cargo hauler from Earth, was having the worst week of his life. His ship's hyperdrive had blown out 3 jumps from home, leaving him stranded at this backwater station. The repair costs would bankrupt him. His wife was probably worried sick, and to top it all off, someone had just told him the worst joke he'd ever heard about a Rigelian walking into a quantum mechanics lab. So when this oversized lizard with anger management issues came stomping into the bar like he owned the place, Marcus found the whole theatrical display absolutely hilarious. Zarthak stopped mid-stride. In his 3 centuries of existence, no one had ever responded to his presence with laughter. Fear, respect, hatred, desperation. These were the emotions he was accustomed to inspiring. But amusement? This was entirely outside his experience. Human. Zarthak's voice boomed across the cantina, each word dripping with menace. You dare mock Zarthak the Destroyer? Marcus wiped tears from his eyes and turned back to his drink, still chuckling. Sorry, big guy. Nothing personal. Just having a rough week? The warrior's 4 hands clenched into fists. I am the scourge of the Outer Rim, the bane of the Alliance fleet. Entire armies flee at the mention of my name. That's nice, Marcus replied without looking up, taking another sip of his synthehol. Good for you. A collective gasp arose from the other patrons. Several aliens began quietly edging toward the exits. The bartender, a nervous centaurian with too many eyes, started frantically cleaning glasses that were already spotless. Zarthak's scales flushed from obsidian to deep crimson, a sure sign of his rising fury. You will show me respect, or I will tear you limb from limb. Marcus finally turned around, studying the alien warrior with the same casual interest one might show a mildly interesting museum exhibit. Look, Zar, whatever, I'm sure you're very scary and all that. But I've got real problems to deal with. My hyperdrive is fried, I'm broke, and I need to figure out how to get home to my family. So unless you're offering to help with any of that, maybe dial down the whole fear me routine. The cantina was now so quiet that the hum of the station's life support system seemed deafening. Zarthak had never encountered anything like this. In his experience, there were 2 types of beings in the universe, those who feared him and those who were too stupid to fear him. But this human didn't seem stupid, just unimpressed. You know what your problem is? Marcus continued, turning back to his drink. You're trying too hard. The whole entrance thing, the dramatic pauses, the title dropping, it's very theatrical. But honestly, it comes off as needy, like you're desperately trying to convince everyone, including yourself, how scary you are. Zarthak's jaw dropped. In 300 years, no one had ever psychoanalyzed him before. The truly dangerous people don't need to announce themselves, Marcus went on conversationally. They don't stomp around demanding respect. They just are what they are, and everyone knows it without the song and dance. The warrior stood frozen, processing these words. His entire identity was built around fear and intimidation. But this small, fragile-looking human was treating him like a child having a tantrum. Take my neighbor back on Earth, Marcus said, warming to his theme. Old Mrs. Patterson, 90 years old, barely 5 feet tall, makes the best apple pie in the colony. But when she gives you that look, you know the one. Even the biggest, toughest guys in town shut up and do what she says. That's real power. No threats needed. Zarthak found himself genuinely curious about this Mrs. Patterson. Anyway, Marcus finished his drink and stood up, tossing some credits on the bar. Good talk. Hope you figure things out. And with that, he simply walked away, leaving behind the most feared warrior in the galaxy standing slack-jawed in a cantina full of witnesses. As Marcus disappeared through the exit, normal conversation gradually resumed. But everyone was watching Zarthak, waiting to see how the legendary destroyer would react to this unprecedented humiliation. For a long moment, the warrior stood motionless. Then, to everyone's amazement, a sound emerged from his throat that no one had ever heard before. Zarthak the destroyer was laughing. "Mrs. Patterson," he muttered to himself, shaking his massive head. 90 years old with apple pie. Perhaps he thought it was time to reevaluate his approach to the universe. And maybe, just maybe, learn to make pie. The human had taught him something that no battle ever could. Sometimes the strongest response to a threat is simply refusing to be threatened. As he walked out of the cantina, without the dramatic stomping this time, Zarthak found himself wondering what other wisdom this strange species might possess.